One of the things I'm always in awe of is anybody that's managed to write a book or novel. I find the idea of that overwhelming and quite wonderful. And this business is actually a business where people look to other people's success to help them guide them in their choices of what movies to support, what movies to develop. So if you've created a book, there is an admiration for that. It's not gigantic unless the book's been a bestseller, but it's a tangible asset. And how you get someone to take a look at that book is you look at what a body of work is. Let's say there's a director that you favor, and you see that the kinds of projects that they do are in the style of this book. You write them a letter, and you hopefully you introduce the book to them in a way that I am familiar with your work. I think this is special in a way that would grow your creativity. People tend to send out spam letters. They tend to send out 1,000 letters to 1,000 people, and every one of us feels anonymous. The way you get someone to pay attention to you is to study what they've done and to try and figure out how you can translate what you've done into something that they could see and discover and be excited by. There's a form that we send out when people have something that we'd like to explore with them, which gives us your firstborn, your house, your ownership of the moon, and several other pieces, and it's a release form. And they're gigantically complex things because we're in a business where people are frequently sued when they have an idea, and an idea is not a resolution. A novel is a completed creative organ. It's its own thing, and so it wouldn't be hard to get people if you write in and say, I would like to submit this, I don't have representation, but I'm happy to sign your release. But you have to be happy to basically take the risk that they may have something similar in development. Out of my whole career, I've seen very, very few stolen pieces. It's really not worth people's effort, because if you actually did steal somebody's idea and you get close to the release of the movie, there are now millions, maybe tens or hundreds of millions of dollars at stake, and you turn up and say, they stole my idea, that's going to terrify the financing system, the studio system. So they don't want stolen ideas. They go out of their way to make sure everything is clean, above board, because it puts them at risk. So my feeling is there's no real danger in signing that release, because it's not really going to be a situation where you lose your work. What it is, it gives you the permission to send your work in, get people to read it, hopefully discover what you've created. At that point, you try and find the tools that make this seem better than their perceptions of it, because it's all about perception in this game. If you come in with a story and you say, this is how I see you selling it, this is the first James Bond, this is Jaws in space, this is finding simple ways of putting handles on what you've created so that the buyer sees it as a financial opportunity. And that again, I think, is part of our responsibility as creators. We have to put as much idea generation into the act of selling our material as we do into the act of creating it. And then it's also about choosing other allies. And if you don't have a rep, you can send something because your lawyer can sign it, a letter, and send it. If you have a letter from a prof or somebody who's a dignitary or somebody who is an author and sends in, signs off on what you've created, these kinds of people, even if you don't have an agent, can be enough to stimulate somebody if the letters are personal, if they reach out. One of the things I do at USC is I make my young MFA students read How to Win Friends and Influence People. What are we doing? We're human beings telling stories to other human beings, and we have to reach out and touch those people in some way so they see us as human, so we see them as human. And you do that by showing that you care, that you've researched them, that you like what they've done, and then they're going to listen to what you have to say. If you just send in an anonymous thing, I've written this story, what do you think? They don't have the time. But if you tell them, I really appreciate what you've done, I see that you've taken these kinds of thoughts in your life, and this may be the next step, because you don't send them what they've just done, because there's no stimulation in that. You send them the thing that they may want to make their own personal next journey and discovery on. And hopefully then they'll look at it, or their development people will look at it. And you can go to actors. Many actors have production companies. And I say that's a great place to go. You're going around the agents and the managers. You're going directly to people who are paid by the actor to try and find them great roles. And they're not hard to get to.